What if one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history happened because someone forgot to clean up? As amazing as it may seem, that's exactly what happened. In 1928, a messy lab led to the discovery of penicillin, a drug that would go on to save hundreds of millions of lives. And, unbelievably, the man who found it nearly threw it away. Meet Alexander Fleming, who in September 1928 was returning from a 2-week vacation in Suffolk with his family. Upon arriving at his London lab at St Mary's Hospital, which was in a bit of disarray, as he put it, he noticed something strange in one of his petri dishes. Mold had contaminated it. Normally, that means you toss it, but Fleming saw something unusual.
What is this? The bacteria are dying, but why?
That was the real mystery, and the answer would have enormous consequences for the health of the human race. If one is to truly understand the significance of just what Fleming discovered, it is necessary to realize that before that fateful day, almost 100 years ago, there was no effective treatment for bacterial infections. A simple cut on a finger could be deadly. All doctors could do was comfort, wait, and hope. Unless, of course, you consider the ancient Egyptians, who applied bandages of moldy bread to wounds to cure infections. Leave it to the Egyptians to be ahead of everybody in just about everything.
In my chariot, bumping this track so loud, got my spings bling on, standing out from the crowd.
Really. Mold juice. That's what Fleming called it. It seemed that the mold was producing something that was killing the bacteria directly around it. He tasked his assistants, Stuart Craddock and Frederick Ridley, to help. But isolating that substance proved extremely difficult. It was extremely unstable. The best they could come up with was a crude solution that wasn't very pure. Interestingly, Fleming tested the solution on his own white blood cells, and unlike other antiseptics at the time, it did not harm them. It would kill the bacteria, but was not toxic to human cells. Nothing like this had ever been discovered before. Alas, Fleming was, after all, a biologist, not a chemist. The task of purifying it further was fruitless, and he shelved the project. It did remain relevant as a method to determine which bacteria were resistant to this mold juice. He formally named it penicillin, and which were not. That was enough to keep it from being forgotten. And forgotten it was not. Early trials of penicillin were mixed, either thought to be ineffective, or in the case of positive outcomes, at the very least coincidental. But in 1931, penicillin was administered to a coal miner whose eye had become infected after a stone was found lodged behind the iris in his right eye. After 48 hours of irrigation with penicillin, the infection was cleared, allowing for the removal of the stone. He recovered and regained perfect vision. It's important to realize that up until this point, penicillin had only been used for surface infections. Because of the limitations in purification, doctors were very hesitant to inject patients with solutions that might contain harmful impurities that could make the patients worse or even kill them. The effort to purify penicillin began in earnest in 1939, and the outbreak of World War II made the effort both imperative and difficult. It was Howard Florey and Ernst Chain, along with their colleagues at the Sir William Dunn School of Pathology at Oxford University, who ultimately turned penicillin into a viable, life-saving drug. In order to fuel a program of both animal experiments and clinical trials, they needed about 500 liters a week of the mold juice. They used practically every container they could find, including bathtubs, bedpans, milk churns, and even food containers. A team was created, later dubbed the Penicillin Girls, to look after the fermentation process. They essentially turned the laboratory at Oxford into a factory, cranking out as much penicillin as they could. But would it be enough? On February 12, 1941, a 43-year-old police officer named Albert Alexander was pruning roses in his garden. He accidentally scratched the side of his mouth, and it became infected. The infection spread to his eyes, face, and lungs, Albert became the first person to receive the Oxford penicillin by injection, and within days his condition improved dramatically. But on the verge of complete recovery, the supply of the drug ran out. He died just a few days later. But just 3 years later, in preparation for the Allied invasions at Normandy, over 100 billion units had been produced, thanks to a colossal wartime effort in America, on par with the Manhattan Project. When major pharmaceutical companies were brought on board by the United States government, mass production with state-of-the-art equipment and techniques took over the development of penicillin, bringing in the era of today, where both the drug, as well as the story behind it, are often taken for granted.